Welcome to the Aloha Hour podcast, episode 59.
All right.
But before we get started, I'd like to remind you to please like, share, subscribe. Do us a favor, get on the on top of your podcast channels and give us a review. Leave us something, say something, holler at us. We'd like to thank our friends from Hawaiian for keeping us refreshed, and also our friends from Dem Nuts.
Let's go.
All up in your mouth. And now we are here, ready for episode 59 with our very special guest. What's going on?
Before we're going to start, we're going to have to put a sticker.
Oh, it's hitting the table?
Yeah. They deserve to be on our table.
You're going to slap them nuts on the table.
I'm going to slap them nuts on the table. You know that. Bah, no more fingernails. But there it is. I get them. Wait. Nope.
While you get that together, I just want to share a quick story from these guys because they're solid. They're a small business in California, and they actually flew down here on their own dime, set up at the swap meet, and donated all proceeds, not just profit or whatever, everything they sold to families in Lahaina directly.
Oh, wow.
Now, I think it was the Friends of Maui they went to. Like, you know that site that disperses directly to families?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gave everything, bro, from California.
Wow, them nuts. That's
Them
cool.
nuts.
Them nuts. We got you on the table.
We got them nuts on the table.
Thank you for all them nuts. Much appreciated. And
Yes.
I really appreciate that custom Johnny's nutsack. I really appreciate
That's
that.
a big nutsack, bro.
I appreciate that. And with no further ado, let me introduce our guest for today. He currently serves in the Hawaii House of Representatives, representing District 42, which encompasses Ewa and Kapulei since 2022. Since January 31st, 2023, he is also the chairman of the Hawaii Republican Party. He is among the youngest state legislators in the United States. He fights daily for the Hawaiian people and stands tall against everybody that's trying to take advantage. He is Diamond Garcia.
Hey, how's it?
How's it?
It's doing good. We just wrapped up session, and so kind of moving on to the interim section of the year. But I'm glad to be here. The work never ends. So,
What does that mean, wrap up? So power work and then what?
So session is constitutionally it's 60 legislative days that we're at the Capitol. It runs about 4 months or so. From the third Wednesday of January to the first week of May, we're in session. So we're looking at bills, we're voting on bills, we're debating issues. It's going through the process, and it only happens once a year. So it's during that time period that legislation is passed and laws are made. And then during the off part of the year, we're pretty much off. You know, most of those politicians are lawyers and all that. So they have their practices, their companies and all that. But for us, it's going right back to the district and seeing what can we do to make Kapolei better? What can we do to solve problems in our local community?
Wow. Well, you know, every time I read about you or I see the stuff about you, I'm like, how come this guy's 27 years old? What the fuck? How early did you start?
Right. Well, you know, politics started in 2018. So prior to politics, you know, in fact, when I graduated from high school in 2015, I never ever dreamed that politics would be where I would end up in a matter of 5 or 6 years. But God has his ways of doing things, and it happened that way. So prior to politics, I was engaged in full-time ministry. So I was traveling the world, training people on how to, churches and all that stuff, how to share the gospel. In 2018, I was flying back from New Zealand. Got a call from our local party, the Hawaii GOP. And they said, hey, Diamond, can you come and share your story of how you came from your family lifestyle on the Waianae Coast to where you are today? I said, yeah, sure. So went to that, and it was at that convention in 2018 that a bunch of people approached me and said, hey, you should run for office. And I said, no, absolutely no way. That's just not my calling. I have no interest in politics. It's a nasty sport. No, thank you. Long story short, 2 weeks later, I was on the ballot, and I was running for.
So what was it? What was that 2 weeks?
I was like, okay, so in that 2 week period, I said, I mean, I have no interest, but then I prayed about it because I'm a firm believer that, hey, if God orchestrates your steps, then that's the right way to go, right? And so prayed about it, and that next week got at least 10 to 15 people calling, hey, Diamond, we heard you spoke at the convention, run for office. And so after the 10th or 11th call, I'm like, maybe I should just consider running for office. So I looked around.
How old are you at that time?
I was 21 years old.
21 years old.
I was 21 years old, yeah. So I was running for Senate District 21 at 21 years old. And so, yeah, I looked at who was running in our community on the Hawaiian Coast. Then it was the senator who is the incumbent, still is right now. And she was in there for, I think back then it was 14 years she was in office in that seat. Prior to that, she was a House member. And she really didn't have no strong Republican challenger. Yeah, people will run here and there, but it wasn't a real aggressive campaign. And so I thought, you know what, there might be a possibility of winning this seat out here. And so we ran. I jumped in literally, it was like the last week to file papers. I jumped in last minute, had no money. I think I raised less than, I don't know, $20,000 against someone who had 80, 90,000. And we ran the race and got 41% of the vote. And so we lost. But for a Republican first timer going against an incumbent to get above 40% was a big deal. And so from that point on, the party was paying attention, like, who is this guy? How did he get so much votes out there? And what can we do to kind of, keep him involved in all that? And so long story short, from 2018, I was hired on by Rep. Gene Ward of Hawaii Kai and served as his chief of staff in the House until 2022. I ran for State House and won.
Wow,
That's the condensed version.
And let me ask you a question. So how did you decide to go as a Republican? Because by the end of the day, this is a very, it's a state that is for 70 years ran by Democrats. You need to have a lot of balls to say, I don't side with you guys. I do my own, and I go against you.
Yeah.
So how did you decide that you on that team and not on that team?
Well, I've always been someone who likes to challenge the system. As someone who's local, whose family has been here for generations in Hawaii, I grew up hearing stories from my parents and grandparents of their generations. In my family, nobody voted. Like, voting is like, why vote? It doesn't matter. Locals get screwed anyway. It doesn't matter. And so my mom, dad, my grandparents, nobody voted. It was just my mom's mom. She was the only one who would make sure she was at the elementary school on election day, got to cast her vote. But she was a Democrat growing up, and we were told in public housing that the Democrats help the poor people.
Yeah.
The Republicans are for the rich. They don't care about you. They're for big business. And all of that. Tax cuts for the rich. So I believed that growing up and assumed I was a Democrat. Then Obama ran for office in 2008, and it was like, hey, here's this guy from Hawaii. He's running for president. Cool. But towards the ending of his second term, I was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. And for school, we were actually looking at party platforms and, investigating what they stand for. And during that time period, this is when in 2015, when there was like 16 Republicans running for president, and Trump was one of them. It was like Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio. And so I was looking at what each campaign stood for. And that was the start of me looking at policy. What do I believe in? What am I? Because it's a blue state. By default, you're a Democrat, I guess. But I realized that my values just don't align with the Democratic platform. My values align with the Republican Party, and that's hard work. That's you work for what you get, less taxes, less government, stay out of our life, leave us alone. We control our own money. And my biggest inspiration was Prince Kohil. So Prince Kohil was a U.S. congressman. He was the second elected U.S. congressman from Hawaii, and he was a Republican. Not too many locals know that Prince Kohil was a Republican. And in those days, in the 1920s and prior to that, the party structure was very different than the way it is today, right? So back then, the Republican Party was against slavery. They were against Jim Crow. It was actually Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president, who freed the slaves. And it was the Southern Democrats who fought against the North, right, to keep slavery. And even going all the way into the 1960s.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Lincoln was a Republican, and I knew he freed the slaves, but I didn't know he was a Republican.
He was the first Republican
I get
president.
chills you just talking about it right now. I swear to God.
And so the Republican Party was started on the foundation of abolition. We were formed to abolish slavery. That was the whole point of the party: abolish slavery in America. And so he won. Of course, that led to the Civil War because the South was like, hell no, that's not going to happen. They fought, the North won, and we abolished slavery. It was successful. But for decades after that, the South was still very racist. Even up to the 1960s and 70s, you still had segregation, Jim Crow laws, the white restrooms, the black restrooms, the white classrooms, the white schools, the black schools. And when you look at the Civil Rights Act in 1964, the majority of Democrats in Congress voted against the Civil Rights Act, and every single Republican voted for it. So you got to ask yourself, which party was truly the party of freeing people from slavery, freeing them from captivity? It was the GOP. Now, I'm not saying the GOP is a perfect party. We're definitely not perfect, and no party is going to save this country. It's the people who will rise up and stand for constitutional values that will save this country, not no one party.
Amen.
But historically, I looked at the party platforms and saw us here in Hawaii, and to a certain extent, us locals have been under bondage, under slavery for a long time. You know, you look at what happened in 1893 at the palace, the illegal overthrow, okay? And Hawaiians were dissed then. Decades later, you know, they're on the bottom of every totem pole. I mean, the lowest income, high rates of health diseases and all these things. And so what's happening? Why is that? Well, the Democrat Party has had a stronghold here in this state for the last 75 years or so. And the party of the 1860s of slavery, I believe, is the same exact party today. Though slavery is not legal today, they keep people in a state of economic slavery, where you're dependent upon the government for survival. And so local families like us growing up, we were raised in public housing, on food stamps, on the welfare programs, subsidized everything, subsidized school bus, subsidized free school lunch, subsidized whatever. It was all paid for by the government. And the Democratic Party is big into that. It's here's all this free things, but we control you. We tell you what to do. We tell you where you can go, how much money you can make. And so I have lots of friends right now who are still in that system, in public housing, and they tell me, Diamond, I don't want to go find a job that pays more, because if I do that, then my food stamps is cut off, then my rent goes up, and I got to pay more, and I actually end up with less. So the government currently punishes you if you want to work hard and get ahead. To me, that's just not right. And there's only one party to blame for that here in Hawaii. 70 years of Democrat rule, and Hawaii ranks on the bottom of almost every list. And so the people of Hawaii deserve better. We need better leaders. And, you know, people say that Hawaii is a very blue state. I don't think so. We have right now the lowest voter turnout nationwide. So what does that tell you? We have a small minority of people who are actively voting. And yeah, they're Democrats, they're blue, they're liberal. But the vast majority of local families in Hawaii, when I talk to them, they are not liberals. They have conservative values. They believe in family values, parental rights, hard work, and they just want to live a peaceful life here in Hawaii. My biggest thing right now, and I think one reason why the GOP has really pushed itself forward these last 2 years, is the issue of the cost of living and housing. We're the party that's offering real change. This last year, Senator Ewa and myself have introduced legislation to ban foreigners from buying property here in Hawaii. That bill went pretty far as far as getting public input. There was over 2,000 to 3,000 people who testified in support of that bill, which tells you the people of Hawaii are desperate. I don't know about you guys, but I have family members who are constantly leaving to Vegas, to Arizona, to Texas, elsewhere. And the biggest reason is they cannot afford rent here. They can't buy nothing here. And that's a problem. So we have to stand up. You know, politicians have to realize that they work for the people of Hawaii, not for these developers, not for this big business owners here in Waikiki. They work for the people, and if locals cannot pay for a basic rent here in Hawaii, then something's wrong. We have to step in and solve that problem. And so that's why, we've put forward some bills.
I think in one of your videos on Instagram, you said Democrats are ruling Hawaii for 70 years. And if you look today, there is the least Hawaiian people
That's right.
in Hawaii. So what does it tell you? If the Democrats they're the guideline, they're the leaders, they set the tone 70 years, and there's the least amount of Hawaiian people, of Kama'aina, of local people on this island. How come people don't see that simple math? You don't have to be, it's not rocket science. You don't have to be like super talented or super smart or educated, or you don't have to be a scholar. For so many years they're ruling. Now there's less than it was ever. How come people are still voting for them? How come people don't see that very obvious issue?
It's a great question. The fact is, people are not voting, and that's the problem. But the good thing is, we are currently on an upward trajectory. As of 2022, this last election, we've seen the most Republicans elected in decades here in Hawaii. We knocked out a bunch of incumbents, and mostly in West Oahu and the rural areas. So Senator Brenton Awa won the North Shore Senate seat. We knocked out a bunch of incumbents in West Oahu, and we intend to keep increasing our numbers. People, well, what we saw was when we had good messaging, people accepted it and they voted for us. The problem with our party is we've had bad messaging all these years. And to be frank and honest, we've had a bunch of mainland haoles running our party, and they bring this national Republican message to Hawaii. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. You have to talk about the local issues. The Democrats are good at one thing: messaging. Though they're lying most of the time, they have good messaging. It's those talking points, those sound bites, which people they buy into. And what we need to do is effectively communicate our message, our conservative message, to the people of Hawaii. And what we're seeing is they're voting for us. So West Oahu, Kapulei, Ewa Beach area, North Shore, all the rural working class areas, they're voting red now. Trump won the Waianae Coast. How's that? Right? So, I mean, it's like they're all like, hey, let's go. And they want something different. And so our party right now, since I was the party chair last year, and during my tenure as state chair, I tried to rebrand this party as the Party of Prince Kuhio. Let locals know this isn't the National Republican Party. This is the Party of Prince Kuhio, and our biggest issue is keeping local families here in Hawaii.
Ooh. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
So anybody is welcome to join the party. We're a big tent party. Lots of folks, have their opinions and their views on politics. Hey, we're a big tent. Come on in, join the party, make a difference, because we can agree on one issue. Like you mentioned, there are more Hawaiians who are now living on the U.S. continent than in Hawaii itself. There's only one party to blame for 70 years. It's their policies which have pushed local people out. High taxation, high regulation. Hawaii ranks the worst in the country to open up a small business. It's pretty difficult here. And once again, it's politicians to blame. Government is the problem, and that's what people have to realize. Government is not going to solve your problems. Government is the problem. So if government just moves out of the side, it just moves, gets out of the way, we can solve many issues by coming together on a grassroots level and tackling them.
I'm getting chills just listening to you.
You getting pumped?
Yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up. To be honest with you, one of the reasons why we invited you is because we feel that you are able to convey the message in a very articulate way on your Instagram, and it reaches a lot of people, and you bluntly say what needs to be said, what nobody has the balls to say. And Steezy and me, we was just talking about it. Even us, because we don't take sides, but we just support what we feel is right. A lot of people or a lot of other Instagram accounts don't give us the platform because we bring people like yourself
Yeah.
and Brenton and Andrea Topola
Right.
and Augie T, and we bottom line, we say what we feel, and then people, oh yeah, you say what you feel, so that's not the message that we want to convey.
That's sad.
Well, it starts where you guys work. You know what I mean? Like that particular people in Hawaii, everybody loves to complain.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is we complain everything, right? We complain about how we crack jokes about city and county all the time.
Yeah.
And how everybody's burning money and such and such. But at the very end of the day, the core is you guys. You guys are the ones that direct it all inside of you guys' workplace. And when people don't want to talk about politics or don't want to share about politics, then it's either one, they're just keeping the people stupid, right? They don't want to educate. They want to just keep everybody in their zombified state of entertainment. Or two, they already have an agenda. You know what I mean? They already have a predetermined agenda that benefits them. And that's why they don't want to support platforms like these. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're just like, oh, it's so political. Well, try educational.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the whole
Exactly.
thing falls on politics.
But I think it also reverts to what Diamond was saying, that people are, painting the Democrats as the savior, and the Republicans as the capitalist, white supremacy. That's how they see it. And then like, oh, why would I vote Republican? I need to vote for the savior, the Democrats, the one that are going to give me and going to take care of me, because the other ones are racist. And this is a preconceived notion that has been taught. This narrative has been, taught those people for tens every year for 50 years. So like he was saying, like when he grew up, his grandma, you said your grandma was a Democrat, because she told him, oh, don't worry, like the Democrats, they're gonna take care of us. That's how I grew up. I've been taught all my life Democrats are good and the Republicans are white, they're bad, they're capitalist. Then I moved to Hawaii and I see that, wait, what? That's not true. And I start to educate myself, and I start to look at the policies, and I start to read about who wants what, when, and where, who is fighting for what. And especially, you were saying about you mentioned Bill 2203 and 2617 for outside investors not to buy land and stuff like that. I mean, immediately the people say, oh, but we need it. I understand, but there's common grounds. For example, why would we let investors to buy ag land? Why do we need to have Oprah Winfrey to buy 400 acres of land and have a mansion? We don't need that. You stay where you are and let us really, because by the end of the day, it's an agricultural land for agriculture. Is she doing any agriculture?
I don't know. I'm not buying no Oprah bananas, bro. You know what I mean? Like, do we have Oprah oranges yet? No. Is there Oprah Kalo? No. Should I selling any of those fruits of the labor of the land? None of it. No. And I'm not a very, again, I always go back to, I'm not a very political person on either side, but the common sense tells me that, if you keep shooting with the left hand and we're not sinking a single shot and we're getting worse and worse, well, let's try and shoot with the right hand. You know what I mean? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to miss again? We're going to lose money? We've been losing money. We've been catching cracks.
That's right.
We've been digging ourselves in a hole. Why not try the other side?
I couldn't agree with you more.
And that's just common sense, I don't have any emotional ties to either side or any, like, rah-rah, Like, I just know that, like, okay, well, that side hasn't been working out well for us for a very long time. Let's try this side for once. I do like a lot of the values and whatnot of Republican side and all that. But at the end of the day, like, here and now, to me, we gotta shoot our shot. We gotta make a switch.
So, no, not to cut you off, but I'm just saying, I the opposite. I have a connection to the Democrats because I love what they say. They're going to take care of us. They're going to help us. They're going to feed us. I love that social, I love that aloha that they portraying that they're going to give. But by the end of the day, where is it?
Speaking of, how did you were a big advocate for Maui when everything went down, and you were trying to find out where everything was going and how things were getting dispersed. How did everything turn out regards to Lahaina?
Well,
from your point of view,
it was interesting because the 2 to 3 weeks after Lahaina, the whole world was watching Maui, right? So I mean, and I was shocked to get the invites to all these national news stations to jump on and share, which I did. But after that kind of passed, the whole world just moved on and kind of forgot. The biggest thing we've seen about investigations was about 2 weeks ago. The Attorney General released the first part of their report, and that was it was quite sad. It was quite sad to see that on that day, those who were responsible for emergency management and those who were responsible to care for the people really wasn't paying attention to what was going on. And what I kept saying 2 weeks after was it goes back to leadership. And even after the fires, the weeks after, seeing the fact that the government didn't step in until days after, people were stranded for days with no resources, no food, no power, no nothing. And the only people who were getting in there was regular local people who were boating in from Molokai, from other parts of Maui, from Big Island to bring supplies in. Where was government? Then they came afterwards and they were turning away some supplies. I think what people saw was when you rely on government for stuff, when push comes to shove, they're just not there for you. They're not there for you. And it was an insult to see the President Biden, take 6 hours away from his vacation in Lake Tahoe to come down to Hawaii. And when he comes, I mean, just no sense of care, no sense of trying to look like he cares. He goes to a press conference and butchers every single name he mentions. And mind you, these are senators of his own party. Mazie Hirono, Brian Schatz, they supposedly work well together. And he butchers their names. He doesn't know who they are. And then he talks about Mayor Bison and all this stuff. It was a national embarrassment. And then to joke about almost losing his Corvette.
Oh my God.
And his small kitchen fire. Do you not have no sense of just, like you said, the humanity. The humanity. These people lost their family members, their entire livelihoods, their homes, some of them their children who burnt alive. And to make jokes like that just tells you these people are out of touch. They're out of touch. And it's just truly sad.
I believe the government would have showed up sooner if their production crews are ready. But they had to wait to make sure they have videographers on deck and make sure they capture all the right angles and all the photographers are ready.
Right.
Then assistants might have been quicker.
Got to put the scrubs on. I know.
Yeah, I mean, just what I experienced when I saw him mentioning the $700.
Oh yeah.
At that moment, I felt like everything is like crumbling down. I felt disrespected. I felt like this is a joke. People lost their lives, their houses, their property. They still have to pay mortgage on the property that got burned down, and you offer $700.
Right, and not per person. It was per household. So in Lahaina, you had lots of families who had 10 people in one house, and they only got $700 per household. How does that work? Especially on Maui. Maui is the most expensive island in the whole state. How do you make that work? And they said, well, that was what Congress gave, and it was already predetermined. To me, that's BS. We are the United States of America. We proud ourselves in having the strongest military in the world, the strongest economy in the world. We can do this, and the greatest scientists. But yet, when our people need help, that's all we give them, $700. Our office had phone calls from people who were saying they were stranded out there and they had no access to their medication. Where was the state? And some of them went a whole week, elderly kupuna, a whole week with no access to their medication. To me, this was just not forgivable, and our government leaders need to be held accountable for this. And I'm
100%.
hoping the people of Maui and those who are watching saw we can't trust government. We cannot trust government. We need to step up and do things ourselves. Uncle Archie Kalepa did that. He formed his own huis out there, and the community, they came together and they were telling the government people what to do. And that's really what, that's what works. What works is we the people have control. Government step back and we'll tell you what to do. Because truly, government works for us. They work for we the people. And I often tell people this in my district because, we've been ingrained for a long time thinking that we are subjects. But in this constitutional republic, we the people don't belong to government. The government belongs to us. And our children need to know that. Like, if you want something to change, you're the boss. You go march down to the Capitol, walk in your representative's office and tell them what to do. Like, they work for you. But I think people have this false picture that politicians are this, this high class, bougie, they're on a different level. No, like, you are actually above them. They work for you. And I think once people start understanding that, we will start seeing changes here in Hawaii. It's already happening.
Wow, that's crazy. Do you link up with Brenton often?
Yeah, I was just last night swinging some clubs with him at the Kapulei golf range. So,
because I catch the same vibe. You know what I mean? Like, you guys came in here both very casual dressed, very very normal. It feels like you're a normal person, not a representative. You know what I mean? Which you are a representative by job description, but you come in here wearing Oakleys, like trucker hat, like, oh, bro, it's hot today. You know what I mean? Like, and then you keep saying we the people, so I'm assuming you still talk to people when they come up to you and ask you questions. You respond to them accordingly, like a human being, and not like,
oh, for sure,
trying to sell them something.
And I tell people this: if you disagree with me, come talk. Like, let's talk. I think lots of politicians, if you disagree on social media, they'll block you, they'll silence you. It's like, no, in this free country, all opinions are welcome. That's what free speech is. Free speech is absolute. And that means someone's speech can piss you off, but guess what? They have the right to speak. And they can say whatever they want. If it offends anybody, who cares? That's what free speech is. Unfortunately today, politicians are trying to silence certain speech. For example, this past session, there was a resolution. I think it was SCR 13. And this resolution called misinformation hate speech and linked right-wingers to the January 6th insurrection as hate speech. And I stood up and said, how dare we even say that right-wing speech is hate speech? Who determines what hate speech is? Who determines what is offensive? Yeah. Because what's offensive to me might not offend you or you. So who determines that? And the fact is, only in communist governments do we have the government telling people that's not true. That's fake news. That's not true.
Actually, you stood up and you read something about what's his face?
Carl Rhodes.
Yeah.
No, hypocrite.
Bruh,
Total hypocrite.
I wrote it down, bruh. This was like nuts. The way you put it out there, it was like, it was, bruh, standing ovation should have happened.
I mean, that morning, he basically implied that Biden should assassinate Trump and this and that. Like,
and have immunity and it's okay. And
Right. And so these guys are hypocrites. They call it hate speech. But at this point, with so many locals being pushed out and we're about to lose our home, like, I look around, Hawaii is so different. I just drove to get here through the town, Chinatown. You know how much businesses are all closing? They're all boarded up. Yeah. Like, Hawaii is changing. Yeah. And so many locals are moving. And what makes Hawaii is not the buildings, not the pictures, not the videos. It's the people here.
Yeah.
We make Hawaii. And if we're all leaving, Hawaii is no longer going to be Hawaii. So my appeal to people is, get involved wherever you can. If it's showing up to your local neighborhood board meeting, at least show up once a month so you know what issues are facing your local neighborhood. And then ask yourself, how can I help out? How can my business help out? How can my family help out? If it's just once a week, help serving in some capacity, do it. Because that is how we come together on a grassroots level and take this state back for us local people. If we're sick and tired of being taxed to death, well, then run for office and change the taxes, right? I mean, let's hook up. Let's hui together and make a difference. Because Hawaii can change. We can be an affordable state. Lots of Hawaiians are moving to Nevada or to Texas because there's no income tax.
Bruh. I was this close.
Yeah.
I was fucking
Wow.
this close until
Wow.
I got job number 3.
Oh, wow.
Third job to survive in Hawaii. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like I was very close to
Great.
it. Just because it's on a shitty trajectory. It's not looking at it now, it sucks. And if you look at it going in this direction for another year, 2 years, it sucks harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
So I'm just like,
yeah.
oh fuck.
No, for real. It's like, I don't know. I'm a state rep. Our salary is $72,000 a year for senators and reps. We pay the bills and we're still broke here. So
Yeah.
it's like, how do you survive in this state? You have to have a second job or a third job just to be okay and buy food. So, no, it's crazy. People have to rise up and change. One party rule, their tax structure is hurting us. Income tax is hurting us. You looked at Florida and Texas. Florida recently removed their income tax. And the biggest complaint from Democrats is, well, then that means we're going to lose all this millions of dollars in funding. Well, you look at every state that removed their income tax, they actually received more taxes at the end of the year. Why? Because people had more money to spend. They were investing, they were spending. There was more business going on because people had more. And who makes profit? The government does. So it's actually a win-win. If the government wants to have more money for services, hey, cut people's taxes.
But also spend more wisely.
Spend more wisely.
I
Yeah.
mean, by the end of the day, when they wanted to do the rail, they asked the people, do you want the rail? Everybody like, nah, we don't
Right.
want the rail.
Right.
Okay, let's do the rail. But we said no.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're still going to do it.
Right.
Now they did it.
Yep.
They spend 6 times more than they were supposed to. Still nobody's using it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not done yet. And now they say, oh, no. People don't ride the rail because it's not done. But we're going to spend more money on the rail. So they basically doubled down on their mistake, even though everybody said from the get-go,
That's right.
we're not going to use it because taking a car to park somewhere, to take a train, to take an Uber or public transportation to get that place and go back, it's
not
not
worth it.
feasible. It's not worth it. Let's not spend that money.
Yeah.
Now imagine they would take those 12 billion,
Right.
12 billion,
We're pushing 13 billion.
13 billion. Imagine they would take those 13 billion. They could solve all the homelessness.
That's right.
They could give everything to anybody that deserves it.
We could rebuild Lahaina, the entire town of Lahaina to the T, with $7 billion. With $7 billion, we can rebuild every single structure that was destroyed in that town. It's doable. But once again, we just blow money on stupid programs here. Or let's help solve climate change. So let's just throw, the governor proposed $200 million. What do you think? And I asked the question, I get it, to be stewards of our environment. That's important. But $200 million for what exactly? How are you going to use $200 million to stop the climate from changing? When we have real issues in Hawaii, like the homeless, like the local families who don't have enough, there are so many issues, small businesses, that we could be helping people, tax credits, investing in all sorts of things. But instead, we pander to the national Democrat narrative, climate change, this whole woke agenda of gender equity and all
Don't
this
get me
stuff.
started. Don't get me started. I have all the have all the bills wrote down, man.
Yeah, but that's what they do, and we just waste so much money. For example, one of our biggest expenses in the state is the Department of Education for our public schools. Lots of folks don't realize this, that Hawaii is the only state in the whole country out of all 50 where there are no elected school boards. So what we have in Hawaii currently is one school board that's all appointed members by the governor, and they govern all 260 something public schools statewide. So in most states, you have local school boards based on a local level, and they're elected by the parents and families in that community, and that board governs the schools in that jurisdiction. Hawaii doesn't have that. So our Republican caucus put forward a bill twice, last year and this year, that would have one elected school board per county. So Maui would have one, Kauai would have one, Oahu would have one, and Big Island would have one. And they would all be elected positions, not appointed, because that way the power goes right back to the people. If we're not happy, well, then let's change the members at the school board and force change to come. That's the only way. Right now, we don't. But folks don't realize that a good chunk of our budget goes to the DOE. And we just passed a bill this year to increase the superintendent of education salary cap to an unspecified amount. How's that? To an unspecified amount. So
Why?
I know it's stupid.
Like, there's.
I see on your face that you're getting mad.
Well, I'm disgusted because teachers, like I really, on the teacher level, like these are people that are shaping our children's future, but even on a more basic level, they are providing daycare.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they're watching our children. Why aren't they paid to an extent where they're not stressed out, or that they could actually give more of a shit, or other than having to think about how to pay their bills, because being a teacher is not an aspiring profession anymore because it doesn't pay well. You know what I mean? Like,
It's true.
People back in Alakuli, plenty of my friends, they tell me like a lot of the parents don't want their kids going to the school just because the education sucks, and the education sucks because they're not paying teachers good enough to care.
Right.
And
I mean, I just found out that our producer Osna is having his kids homeschooled. No wonder.
There you go. Good on you. That is the secret.
Sharp too. I'm telling you, bro, this kid got bars. This kid rap better than 80% of Hawaii rappers, bro. Like, it's insane.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
hey, makes sense.
But yeah, and that's what I'm considering too for my child. You know what I mean? Just because, or I gotta figure out, maybe get a fourth job to get privatized education. But it's again, the left hand keeps missing.
Yeah.
Why not try to shoot with the right hand?
No, I mean, I'm a big proponent of like let's homeschool our kids, because at this point, what they're getting in public schools. I mean, if parents were to sit through a class today, they'd be like, what the hell are my kids learning in school? And schools get paid based upon how many students are actively enrolled there. So if people pull their kids out, the school ain't going to get no money. And that will force the DOE to rearrange what they're doing, to look at what they're doing, to bring kids back. I'm a big supporter of school vouchers. So Florida has this too, where right now here in Hawaii, every kid who goes to a public school, the school is paid about $10,000 to $12,000 per student. I think it's $12,000 now. What if we just gave parents for every kid a voucher of $12,000 to $15,000 and say you choose where you want your kid to go? Public school, charter school, private school, church school, or homeschool. Here's $15,000 to homeschool your kids. Stay home and focus on your kids. What would that look like? Some states have already done that. Florida's done that, and what we saw was
that's $15,000 a year.
A year per kid.
Wow.
And what would that do is it forced the public schools to raise their standards to where parents were okay with sending their kids to the local public school.
Wow.
And that's what we need. Right now, there's a monopoly on education, and the biggest problem is the teachers' union. The teachers' union, I love our teachers, and they do great things, but the National Teachers Union, who's kind of pushing their woke agenda in these schools, what they're doing is they're bringing in all these young haole teachers from the mainland to come work here in Hawaii, and they're not just teaching, they're indoctrinating our kids with their woke agenda. And I know local families are not having it. They're just not having it, but they have no other option. And so kids have to go to school. So yeah, I mean, let's completely break down the DOE structure and just let's do something different in Hawaii.
Amen. I have a quick question. I know that Josh Green was pushing for the HECO to get that
to float the bond to basically
blank
subsidize.
check.
To save them.
Yeah. Let's give you more money. You don't have to say how you're gonna spend it.
Right.
You're just gonna take it. You guys do whatever you guys want with it. You don't have to give us any due diligence on how you're gonna spend it. Whatever. And the guy from HECO, CEO or whatever, he was saying it's better for you guys because you get the bill later. Like if you're not gonna pay now, you get the bill later.
But who gets the bill? It's still the people, and it wasn't even our fault to begin with.
That's what I don't
It
understand.
wasn't our fault to begin with.
Why, if they fucked up? Let me ask you this. Let's backtrack. Did they get bonuses that year? Yes or no? They did. It's a publicly traded company. So you can see exactly how many bonuses they got that year, right? Will they get bonuses this year? I'm not surprised if they will. Why would we, the people, right, the state, give them a blank check and tell them, oh yeah, oh, you didn't do it till now, right? Because they were supposed to, cut the weeds around the poles, right? Which they didn't do. Maintenance, right? So they say, well, pay us right now. Give us more money. Give us more money to do what we were supposed to do, but we didn't do. Yeah. But now if you give us more money, we will do, but there's no promises.
Yeah.
And we don't have to show you how we're going to spend it. Just don't worry. Trust us. We're going to spend it well.
Yep.
And you like, wait, what? You're going to spend it well? But you didn't spend it well till now. You didn't care till now. You just did whatever you wanted without even taking into consideration the potential effects. And this is what happened in Lahaina.
Yeah.
And now you want us to give you more money? You want us to give you like a prize for fucking up? I just don't understand.
Essence, what it is, and I'm glad I voted no on that bill the whole time. It was there. Thank God it died in conference committee.
So it died. It's not going to happen.
It died. The governor tried to pull some last minute stuff and tried to extend the deadline from a Friday to a Monday, and use that weekend to pressure senators to kind of just pass it through. Luckily, it wasn't passed, but I'm hearing some rumblings. There might be a special session, maybe or whatnot, to get that bill passed. Who knows? But the energy problem's a big problem, and the people of Hawaii have been sold a bunch of lies these last 10 to 15 years. Hawaii Democrats have put this state on a trajectory called the 2045 goal, where they have to have all renewable energies by a certain date, and so HECO was basically forced to by the politicians to move towards this renewable structure. So they have to build more, wind power and solar power and this and that to appease their globalist people. And they shut down the coal plant in Campbell Industrial. It was there for a long time, and that basically powered the whole island, right? They shut that down because of climate change, and we're going to kill the earth. And they filled the whole Kapulei Plains with a bunch of solar panels. Now you saw that down there's also with solar panels out there. And what do we the people have? Rolling blackouts.
Yeah,
rolling blackouts. What the hell? It's not fair. It's not fair. Why do we have to suffer and living in a third world country that has rolling blackouts because politicians want to look good on paper, and we're helping the earth, we're helping the planet, and all this climate change? To me, it's BS. It's complete BS. It's a hoax that pushes millions of dollars towards these globalist organizations, and the people who are left to pay for it is us on our electric bill. Since they shut down the coal plant, people have realized that our electric bills have gone up by about 25%.
Easy.
And we have rolling blackouts on top of that. So it's definitely not a win for the people.
You know how I love the fact that they changed it from global warming?
Yeah.
To climate change. Because when they said global warming, everybody was able to prove there is no global warming. Right. It was warm before, then it went down, then it went up, then it went down.
Yeah.
So the global warming that you have to change. Okay, well, we change it to climate change. Climate change is the new agenda. What about fucking Al Gore was talking about the ozone?
Right.
And was saying, well, we have about 3 years. In 3 years, we're all going to be like fucked. Now, there is shit happening.
Of course.
There is shit happening.
The climate is always changing.
They're always changing. It always did. It always was.
And always will.
It always will. So
right.
Now they're just, I feel like they're just finding more ways to spend our money.
That's right.
And guess who's getting all those contracts? I know it's not me.
Yep.
I know it's not you.
Yep.
I know it's not Steezy.
No, not at all. Not one bit, bro.
Not one.
Unless it's job number 4. Maybe.
Yet to come. Gonna have you doing some solar panels out there.
Straight up. So what gets you going, bro? Like what like you're very fired up, and we can sit here and we can complain and bitch and moan about the system and everything. You're there fighting the fight every day, and you're here with all the information for us and can clearly, concisely speak that message to us and our viewers. What gets you going when you wake up in the morning? Like, do you just wake up and be like, flip off the world? Like, I'm coming for you? Or you got pictures of is it the donkey? Are they the donkey or the elephant?
We're the elephant.
We're the elephant, right? So you have pictures of a donkey and you start whipping them, like, you know, like what gets you going, man? Why are you in this for the fight at such a young age?
Well, so when I was about 13 or 14, I basically told God, hey, I'm here to stand for truth, stand for righteousness, and be your servant. He kind of led me through this path. I ended up in politics, and what I see me doing now, it truly is ministry, is, you know, you're helping the people of Hawaii, but more importantly, you're holding those responsible accountable. Somebody needs to cry aloud, spare not, and lift up their voice like a trumpet and show people their error. The people of Hawaii are hurting, and they need elected officials who are not going to be swayed by party power, by the governor telling them to vote this way, being threatened. You know, most Democrats, they live in fear in that building. Because I've had some Dems tell me, hey, Diamond, I actually agree with you on these things, but I just can't vote with you on that because of our party and our caucus. I said, to me, that how can you look yourself in the mirror and know that you're voting yes while hurting the people of Hawaii? For me, it's personal because my family, I have so many family members who have packed up and left. And they call me, and they're doing fine up in Vegas. They're doing fine in wherever they are. They're actually working. They have a house. They have a savings account. They're going to send their kids to college. Like, that's the dream that people want. It's impossible here. And so for me, it's every day working until my family members can move back to Hawaii, buy a house, and raise their family. Every local family should have that right. Unfortunately, right now, that right is an impossible right, but we have to rise up and make that happen. So you look at all those who have taken that challenge. Brenton, news anchor, politician. Andrew Topola, a music professor, politician. Augie Toba, a comedian, politician. It's people, just local people in Hawaii who had their careers, who are, you know, living their life, who basically said we can no longer sit by and watch Hawaii change for the worse. Change is good or bad, but if it changes to the worse, that's not good. We need to make Hawaii great again, and that's my campaign slogan is let's make Hawaii great again. It isn't about Trump. It's not about the national stuff. We have a crappy state right now. All the leaders on the Democrat side, you know, people talk about you Republicans are a bunch of white supremacists. Well, who's leading the state right now? Josh Green, a mainlander. Who was before him? David Ige. Who's our current LG? Sylvia Luke. I mean, these people are not born and bred here in Hawaii, and this isn't. Yeah, it's their home by residency. Linda Lingo. Yeah, she was an outsider too, you know. And then
she was Republican, though.
She was. Yeah. She was, and so. Once again, it's not about where you're born or what your race is. I mean, if you're local, and that's one thing. But your heart has to be in it for the people. One thing I just love about Lingo is this: though she was a haole, she was born in Missouri. She came here at a very early age. She was a council member on Molokai. And I know on Molokai, she was the elected council member because she ran against an incumbent because there was an issue over a water fountain. And the water fountain wasn't being fixed. It was in the 80s. And she was like, well, I'm going to run for council. And she did. And she won. And then, you know, some years later, she served 2 terms, ran for mayor for Maui County and won. And then she ran for governor in 1998 against Ben Cayetano and lost by 4,000 votes. And then she became a chairman of the Hawaii GOP. She grew our numbers in the legislature to 19 in the House, and I think it was 7 or 8 in the Senate. And then she ran for governor and won. And one thing that I'm so thankful to Lingo for is this: out of all the governors we've had since statehood, she did the most for Hawaiian homelands. All the Hawaiian homelands in Kapulei you see built out there, Kamakana, Li'i, all that was all ag land, right? Back in the day, it was Linda Lingo who built all those Hawaiian homesteads out there. It was during her administration, and she did the most for the Hawaiian people in building Hawaiian homelands.
I did not know that.
All the governors, Democrat governors combined less than what Lingo did. And I think Lingo stayed true to our party's vision from Prince Kohio, and that was the most important thing we can do is the rehabilitation of our race, of our local people. Hawaii will not be Hawaii if Hawaiians aren't here.
Yeah.
And so I thank Lingo for that.
Holy shit, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
She's Jewish.
She is Jewish.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I can't help but picture Danny Tanner when I see her. I'm so sorry. It's just, I just see Danny Tanner and Linda Lingle, and I'm like, gotta be brother, sister, bro. They gotta be twins somewhere in there.
Yep. Linda Lingo, those were the days.
I will never get that picture out of my head anymore.
But I love Linda. That's a beautiful. I did not know that she did that Kapulei homestead. That Kapulei homestead is beautiful, man.
Yeah, and
the homies that live there, I'm like, man, you guys are blessed out here. You know?
We're truly blessed. It's an awesome community. So 2008 was the first homesteads built out there, 7-8ish, and that was the end of her 2 terms in office, and that was the result of that. And we've just been building upon that. But also, one thing that Lingo did was veto the rail. When the rail first came up during Mufi's time, and they were pushing go rail go, all the unions were supporting the rail. It was Linda Lingo who said this is not feasible, it's not going to work financially, and she vetoed it. They had to wait till Abercrombie came in after that, and they passed it through. But yeah.
Wow.
Mental.
You just raised Linda Lingo's stock
for real.
to new highs.
Yeah, especially in my book. I'm like,
in my book too. Okay.
Okay,
I like that.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
But you know what? We need more people like yourself. Yeah. And I know you guys are 6 versus 45.
There's 51 in the house. Yeah, 6 out of 47. But really, it's 5 out of 47. Yeah.
Yeah. What, you just count one guy? One guy's like,
one.
You know him, bro. Like, fuck, he's just trying to be down.
Nothing against that one person. Nothing against that one person, but this person has chosen not to engage with our caucus and not to caucus with us.
What a fucker.
So, hey, it's all good. You do you. But for us, it's about we need solid conservatives who are not afraid to stand up, speak up, and who cares what comes your way. Speak the truth, vote your conscience, and that's it. If you're not going to do that, sorry, but we're going to find someone who will do that and run in your spot.
Fuck, we're going to put your elephant flag down, bro.
Before we let you go, because I know you're in a rush, but I just have to touch one a topic that I really want to just understand. I know Bill 2779, gender affirming healthcare, and then Bill 2436 authorizes 14 and up to consent to medical care with no parental consent. What are the Democrats saying? Like, what is the idea behind it? What is the intelligent, what are they saying? Like, what stands behind it?
That's a good question. I asked the same question because when that bill came up on the floor for second reading, I stood up, I said, I oppose the bill, and gave my speech. I said, I'm no scientist, but I did take a basic class of biology in high school in 10th grade, and I learned back then that you have 2 chromosomes, an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. There are only 2 genders, regardless of what you can identify as. That's fine. Who cares what you identify as? But the reality still is there are only 2 genders, and it's biological. And so that bill came through, HB 2079, and that would allow doctors to prescribe controlled substances for gender-affirming care for minors. And I'm very much against it now. Not that I'm against trans people. I'm really not. I don't care what you are. If you're an adult, this is a free country. You have a right to live your life as you wish. You can be whatever you want. But this is kids we're talking about. Minors making these life-altering decisions, and this isn't just dyeing your hair color green for a week or having a nose piercing. This is like permanent surgical procedures which will forever change your body, change your life. I mean, and not just physically, but even internally. When you remove certain body parts from humans, you have issues. There are glands, there are, your lymphatic system for girls, chopping off their breasts at like 14 years old. That's not good for their health. And there are no very long-term studies to see what happens. But you know who who wins the biggest through this gender affirming transitions for kids? It's the pharmaceutical industry. They make about $30,000 to $60,000 per kid who's on gender hormone therapy. The most common is Lupron for girls, and that's about $60,000 a year that the politicians are trying to force our taxes to pay for these kids. And this alters their insides, and many of them are now in their 20s and 30s, and they're dying of cancer at a very early age because there are no long-term studies to see what happens from these drugs. So to me, it's just common sense. And I know most parents out there, regardless of your take on politics, know this is common sense. Leave kids alone. If they're 18 years old and they're an adult, they can make whatever decision they want. They can take hormone therapy, they can get surgical procedures, that's their body, whatever. But for kids, to me, that crosses a line. And what crosses it even further is when you have schools pushing this ideology on kids, asking them to question their body, question their biology, and then hide that from parents. To me, that just crosses a big line. Mm-hmm. Parents have a right to know what's happening with their kids. Kids don't belong to government. They belong to their families, period. And if government wants to do something with children, they need parental consent. As I said on the floor for that bill, kids need consent from their parents for a school field trip. To get a nose piercing or a tattoo, if you're underage, your parents have to literally sign off on it. And that's the way it should be. But yet for an abortion service, for example, they can go in at 14 years old with no parental consent, a parent not even knowing. Now, that bill passed last year. That was SB 1. And that bill said a minor can have an abortion service with no parental consent. So I asked the question, what happens if the procedure goes wrong? Like, what happens if the child, God forbid, dies from the abortion procedure? Who's held liable if the parents had no idea that she was getting this abortion service? They couldn't answer the question, but they still passed the bill anyway. And
that's sickening, man. It's sickening just because in layman's terms, or in most basic form, right? You're letting your child allow an adult to touch them.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
disfigure them. Yeah.
Well, not even the surgery part, but the fact that you're touching spaces that you're not supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, that's a legal way of fucking touching someone.
True. That's
crazy.
True. I mean, what we're seeing now in schools is they're very much trying to sexualize kids at a very early age. Mm-hmm. Back when I was in school, and it wasn't that long ago, this is maybe, 10, 15 years ago, in like 7th grade, my teacher for health class, it was sex ed. It was the age appropriate, you're growing some hairs on your stuff and your voice is dropping. Sex ed, how a baby is made. And what they taught us was basic biology. This is how a kid is made, and they told us don't have sex till you're married. This is public school. They pushed abstinence. Today in public schools, they're encouraging kids to play with their body parts. There are books in public school libraries that tell kids how to play with themselves,
including oral sex,
all kinds of stuff. How, what to rub. I mean, this is not the school's job to infringe upon that sacred part of a family unit. That is, every family has their own values. Some of them raise their kids in a church home or a secular home or whatever. But it's up to the parents of that family to have those talks with kids, not the schools. Not the schools.
I think even more so, just like you said. Tattoo, no breast. Oh yeah, just take it off.
That's healthcare.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. That I just can't understand.
Me either.
And another thing that drives me nuts, when they have those trans coming into school, kindergarten, you name it, and they're half naked.
Oh, the drag readings and stuff for the kids. Yeah.
So what I don't understand. If it would be a regular woman.
Right. Dressed like that.
Right. Everybody would be like, how dare you? Yeah. How dare you?
You're a prostitute, basically.
But if it's a guy.
Right.
in panties. Oh my God, so liberating. Oh my God, it's amazing. I'm like, are you guys nuts?
Yeah.
At what point did you lose it? Where did you lose your mind?
A long time ago. Under Obama, they lost it. But yeah, you know, the whole drag thing for kids, I think it was last year, there was a whole news story. They tried blasting me and the other rep for speaking out against it. But I was asking questions. Why are we using tax dollars to pay for a what was it? It was a drag show reading thing. It was where they brought this drag queens to read books to kids. Nothing against drag queens, nothing against reading, but why do you have to have drag queens read to kids? Why can't we bring like police officers or firefighters or like somebody that they can look up to, and you know, or pilots? Back when I was in school, I remember those special days when like certain people would come to the school and read books to kids for a day, and they were like cool people in the community. But now we're celebrating adult entertainment. This is adult entertainment. Once again, nothing against drag shows and drag people. But this is adult entertainment. Mm-hmm. This is where adults pay money to go have fun. Why are we gonna do this to kids in school and make like, oh, it's an okay thing, unless there's a motive behind that, and that motive is trying to intentionally sexualize our children. There's no other logical reasoning for this except for that. They're trying to sexualize kids, and parents have to stand up and say, hell no, this is not happening in my school. Parents have to call their principals and let them know this is not happening in my school.
Or not put your kid in that school no more.
Or not put your kid
at home, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Fuck that school.
Hey, so do you guys really get drunk all the time inside the state capitol because then you pass in law so that you can continue drinking?
Good question. I don't, but but I'm gonna be honest. With you guys, and the politicians might hate me for this, but screw them. The fact is, there's lots of drinking in that building. There is. Last year, there was a whole fiasco with one rep about reporting to the cops that her fellow members were drunk and stuff. I can tell you, there's lots of drinking in that building, and so not in my office, but yeah, it happens.
Jeez.
It's what happens when politicians get comfortable, right? They think, I'm going to win re-election. It's going to be all good. I got this. Nobody really questions my voting record. Nobody really questions my beliefs or my stances. And they just feel entitled, and that's what leads to corruption. That's what leads to taking bribes on the side. There's a politician currently, a House member and senator who is now locked up because they took bribes to pass or kill bills. Because they were so comfortable in their position that they weren't really focused on the mission. Why are you there? It's to serve the people of your district. So once again, if we want change, people look at these national races like the presidency or the governor's race. But true change is going to come when we change the legislature. It's the legislature that makes laws, that changes laws, that can amend laws. They're the guys that hold the power. It's the legislature. And so, once again, we have 6 Republicans out of 51. We have 2 in the Senate out of 25. The only way we can actually stop these guys is if we increase our numbers and we start challenging them on legislation. That's the only way forward. So we're working on it right now. I just talked to Brent, and we're trying to find candidates statewide who's willing to rise up and run for office. Because if there's more of us in there, I can tell you the message will be a lot more stronger, a lot more powerful. The Democrats weren't used to this much social media attention. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
This last year, especially on that bill, the gender affirming care, I did my floor speech, right? It was blasted on social media. We got hundreds of thousands of views, and the local people, 95% are against that bill. They're like, this is common sense. Leave the kids alone. Mm-hmm. The Democrats were so caught off guard that they had that much people call their office, email them, pissed off, grandmas showing up to the Capitol, pissed off. And that's what we need. People need to engage their government. And guess what? That bill died. It died because, first of all, it's an election year. And the Democrats told us on the Senate side, we were too afraid to schedule the bill for a hearing because of all the public pushback. And so who won? We the people won. We identified that's a bad bill. thank God for social media, because otherwise the media won't report it.
Yeah.
Hawaii News Now, KHO, and KTV, they're not going to report it. But social media, it's the message that goes right to the people, and they made phone calls, they made emails, and thank God we killed HB 2079.
Amen. I can't be more proud of you, my friend.
Hey.
I mean, having you out there fighting for all of us, for our kids, for our future, is truly humbling. And sitting here with you and hearing your passion and your commitment to make Hawaii a better place is truly inspiring. And if anybody is listening and wants to make a change, please do. Please run for office. Please do your part.
Or at the very least, vote.
Vote.
Yes.
Get up and vote, bro.
Get up and vote.
Takes a half a day. Your job will pay you for that half a day to go vote.
That's right.
Just vote. And at the end of the day, if you vote, then you are entitled to say whatever you like online and to all your friends.
That's
Even
right.
if your people don't win. You now have a word in a fight that comes from a real place.
That's
You
right.
know? So
True.
vote, bro.
Vote.
Vote.
And on that note, we want to award you our
Ta-ta.
Aloha Hour Hama Award.
The Aloha Hour Hama Award. Wow.
Because you won
Yes.
Hama.
Mahalo, bro.
And thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep on doing it. We stand behind you. If there's anything that we can do to help you and promote you, please let us know, because we truly believe that we deserve better.
Mahalos.
Hawaii
Appreciate
deserves better. And on that note, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, episode 59. And going to be up on Tuesday. See
There
you
you
soon.
go.
Ahuiho.
Aloha.
Thank you.